Good afternoon. The desire for validation and to be liked is a human need, but this can bring about anxiety. Welcome to Tuesday Talks at 3. This is a platform where I help you get unstuck and onto your true potential through unlocking your limiting beliefs. This July, it's all been about sustaining our purpose. And to sustain our purpose, we need to be able to consider what is the thing that could hold us back from sustaining our purpose or just achieving that very purpose. And one of the aspects in my creator framework that can hold you back from achieving your purpose or sustaining your purpose, as it were, is the very fact of your limiting beliefs. So it's about thrashing out your limiting beliefs. So that desire for approval and to be liked by other people, although it is a human need, it can cause anxiety, and it can be the one thing that can stop us from sustaining our purpose. Very good to see you there, Marjorie Mweni. Great to see you. Today we're continuing that theme of July of sustaining our purpose, and we are looking at what if people don't like me. You've got this game plan, we are rolling with it, but then you start to feel, what if people don't like me? And you start to doubt yourself that maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So this is what we're going to be looking at today. In this month of July, we have also looked at I do not have what it takes and I am not good enough. So today, as we finish the month with what if people do not like me, I am just hoping that you can share with me your opinion, whether validation and feedback are the same. Is there a difference? Is there a difference between validation and feedback? So this Tuesday Talks at 3 today is about what if people do not like me? And like I have said, that validation is important. Much as I say that validation could actually be a point of anxiety, it's a need that we have. Growing up, we sought the validation or the acceptance or the acknowledgement of our guardians, our parents, our teachers. Even at our places of work, we sought this kind of validation or acceptance. In our areas of influence, in our areas of social, we also continue to do this. However, when it gets to that point of causing anxiety, this is when it is a limiting belief. This is when it can hold you back from just achieving that purpose of yours. So it is good that we thrash it out, and in my creator framework, we lay it out very, very clearly for you. So today we are asking the question, validation and feedback, is it the same? I am saying that although it is a human need and it can form anxiety, I recommend that we shift into personal acceptance, and we a little bit of that in a bit on what personal acceptance is according to me, in my opinion. Let's just touch base on what we did in the last 2 weeks. So in the first week, we were looking at I do not have what it takes. How many times have you felt this negative feeling? You want to start something and you say, I do not have what it takes. There are those out there who are kitted out to do this kind of thing. I'm not. I really do not have what it takes. And I recommend it to you to write down accomplishments, because when you write down your accomplishments, you will quickly realize that you must have had what it took to be able to achieve those accomplishments. You must have had what it took. So can you really say you don't have what it takes? You don't have what it takes according to who? Who is writing these rules? So you need to sit back and just write down your accomplishments. And every time you get this negative feeling that is coming upon you, remind yourself about your accomplishments and remind yourself that you definitely have what it takes. You definitely do have what it takes because you accomplished this one thing. Even if it is just one thing that you're taking to the bank with you today, you accomplished it. So whether you're writing it down or whether you're keeping it as a mental diary, I recommend that you write it down until you get into the habit of putting things down that you can actually now start to keep it to memory, and you will be able to remember. The good thing about putting it down, it's a journal like on our smartphones that we can carry around and always refer to. And this is important for you because it builds you up whenever you have that negative feeling coming upon you, or when you are mentoring somebody else and they say to you, but I don't have what it takes. And you say to them, can you write down 1, 2, or 3 things and let's talk about them. What did it take for you to achieve these things? Let's talk about it. And you will find that you are inspiring and motivating somebody to continue with something else, which they did not realize was a block in their lives. This is about thrashing out our blocks. This is what we are talking about. These are limiting beliefs. And by definition, limiting beliefs are the opinions that we have of ourselves, of others, and of the world. We have these limiting beliefs and they really hold us back. Great to see you there, Kavi. Welcome. So in sustaining our purpose and just considering that perhaps you feel you don't have what it takes, just do what I have recommended for you to do. Write it down. Refer to it all the time. And every time you have a negative feeling coming up, go back to your list. Whether it's on your phone, whether it's in your journal that you're carrying around with you, speak from that space, from that place of accomplishments, because you must have had what it took to be able to achieve that accomplishment. I know it sounds easier said than done, but the practice and practice and practice is going to help you. The second part that we went into that was that I am not good enough. And my question to you during that session was, according to who? You're not good enough, how? Can you then please articulate what it is that good enough means? And once you've articulated it and you've given it a name, you've given it a description, then attach some action plans. When you attach action plans to this, you realize, I am good enough. And at the end, you'll ask yourself, really? Are you really not good enough? You are. It could just be that the topic under discussion is not something that is your reboot, that is your DNA, is something that you speak of easily. It could be a learned skill. But until you actually identify what it is that you mean by being good enough, so that you can say that you are not, until you identify that, you will not be able to put action plans to it. Neither will you be able to come up and say, actually, I am good at it. You will continue to have that negativity in you that you are not good enough, and therefore just to rise up will not be easy. Again, just like in example 1, you have the opportunity to help somebody else. You could be mentoring somebody and they say, I'm not good enough. And you ask them, define what good enough is. And if indeed you were good enough, what would it look like? Write it down. So what do you need to do today to make that a reality? I hope I'm giving you steps now that can help you be able to have some ideas, some tools, some kind of journey that you can be able to respond to this voice in your head, because it is this voice. It is an opinion. Guys, it is not the truth. It is an opinion. So what is it that is in your mind that you are saying to self that you need to bring out and put on paper? Only you can answer that question. Well, the question today is validation and feedback. Is there a difference? Are they the same thing? What do you think about them? And the reason I'm asking this today is because our limiting belief of this afternoon is, what if people don't like me? You see, that desire for validation and the desire to be liked is a human need, but it can bring about anxiety. And today, I do hope that the 3 tools that I will share with you will be able to shift you to personal acceptance. Because in that self-awareness, you will be able to see that indeed you need to like yourself first before it is even important or to be discussed whether other people like you or not. Do you like yourself? Good to see you there, Lynette. Karibu sana. So the question is validation, feedback. Is there a difference? Is it the same? So I'd love to hear from you, Marjorie. I'd love to hear from you, Kavi. I'd love to hear from you, Lynette. Is it the same? Validation and feedback. Is it the same? And my disclaimer is, yes, you need to like yourself first. We are not writing off validation. There's a validation that we need in our environment because we're looking up to a sense of approval that we've done something, but then we end it there. So you've approved what it is I'm doing is good. Then I should not go ahead and try and get further approval. I need to take the compliment of the situation as is and move on. Many a time we get stuck in that loop. We keep on hungering for that validation, so we don't end up seeing the value in self, and we don't end up being able to manage our journey. Like I said, this is about the journey of life and how we are able to help build one another. So is it validation? Is it feedback? Are they the same thing or not? So moving on to the first one, be yourself. So how do you know to be yourself? Just be the person that you believe you are meant to be. And that is your natural self. The minute you start to second guess yourself, then you are being somebody else because you're already measuring it according to somebody else. These are the voices in our heads. Just watch children when they are playing. They are themselves. Because at this point, the conditioning stage, the recording stage is happening. They haven't yet started applying in their lives what they have learned. They are just carefree souls. So when they are out there playing, they are being themselves. And you can hear them express their opinions, without any bias. But the minute that we start to grow up and we turn into, 2 digits, the age of 10 and moving on, we start to want to have a voice, want to sample what somebody else is saying. We already have some successes and failures. We've already had a lot of ideas from different areas of our lives that are changing and that are forming our minds. These are all conditionings that are now coming to life, and we begin to question our very self. And therefore, being yourself then becomes a challenge, because what is it that you're defending if you do not understand who you are? So we need to identify, who am I as Lucy? Who am I? Who am I? If I was to take away all the education, if I was to take away all the people in my life, if I was to take away all the material wealth in my life, who am I? Thank you so much, Kavi, where you say feedback is more important. Feedback is more important than validation. Thank you for sharing that, Kavi. Feedback. I always ask for feedback whenever I do my life coaching sessions, whenever I do my training sessions. I ask for feedback from my loved ones. And the feedback is, how does that make you feel? How was your day today? What would you like me to help you with? And you get feedback, but you need to open yourself up to this feedback. And when you get it back, you take it for what it is, feedback. It is not an opinion. It is positive criticism. It is you asking for information that is going to improve self. So validation and feedback, and thank you for sharing that, Kavi. What about you, Lynette? What about you, Marjorie? What do you think about validation and feedback? Is there a difference? Is it the same thing? Validation continues in today's life. Kavi, you go on to say that validation leans more to comparison. Validation leans more to comparison. Now, when you say validation leans more to comparison, to mind it means, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm misunderstanding, that you're looking at validation by comparing what you think you have done and what somebody else thinks that you have done. And therefore, you're bringing them together. If this is so, Kavi, this is a healthy way to look at feedback also. I would like to challenge those of us on this session today. Is validation important when you keep on seeking it in every stage of your life? Is validation important when you keep on seeking it in every stage of your life? So as we are answering that, we move on to number 3, which is what we are looking at today, which is, what if people do not like me? But I don't know me. I need to understand who me is. So once I have stripped myself of those 3 things that I spoke of, who is left standing? That is the me. It is not a very easy journey to take for you to find that person standing on their own, that person called me. Because some truths do come and they are painful. But these are truths that need to be seen and addressed for you to transcend into self-awareness. Did you know that there was a survey that was done of people, over thousands of couple of people? And what came out is that out of all these people, only 95% took the sampling. Out of the 95%, and we shall call that 100% right now, only 10 to 15% were self-aware. The rest were lying to themselves that they were self-aware. To be self-aware means you know who me is. You know that when we poke the bear, this is what happens. When we stroke the cat, this is what happens. So in good and in bad times, this is what happens. And this is where emotional intelligence comes, where you are able to manage your own emotions according to whatever situation is around you, and even manages the emotions of those people who are with you. Are you able to do this and have a profitable, beneficial experience at the end of the day of learnings? Or do you lose it? Emotional intelligence also helps us to resolve conflict. It gives us solutions. But you need to know who you are first before you put yourself out. Like we say, you need to fill your cup first before you can give anything out. So who are you? This is the first step to personal acceptance. You need to know who you are. Well, we have a 3-day session which we call Clarity by LMC. And here we go into identity, into planning, and into execution. It's 3 days, and we work with you on a one-on-one, and we help you to identify self and go on to identify the other things that are important to you. But we identify self because many a times we don't know who we are. We want to be in that 10 to 15% of people who are self-aware. Because once you are self-aware, then you can mentor. You can pass on information that can help somebody else know who they are so that they can find fulfillment. Because if you do not know who you are, you then cannot own who you are. So the second point, apart from being yourself, the second point onto that is owning who you are. Now, when you own who you are, it just suggests that copying and pasting somebody else is a possibility. And many a times we find ourselves copying and pasting. I'll give you an example. If you were to walk into a room now of people and you want to be able to join the conversation or join the mood or the mode or just to be with the program in that group of people, you find yourself beginning to mirror what is happening in the room. And when you start to mirror, that is a sign that you want to be able to keep them at ease, that you are not the enemy, you are there also to interact, to dialogue, to learn with them. So you want to be accepted. And therefore, there are certain things you begin to do. So whether it is your accent that will change, whether it is your body language that will change, whether it is your choice of words that will change, your objective here is to give out some assurance that you are there to grow, to help, to work with them. That kind of mirroring is a positive mirroring. The negative kind of mirroring is when you go there and you want to literally copy and paste what is happening in the room so that you could be liked. Now, when I talk about rooms, we can talk about social media. This is what is happening right now. Welcome, Sally. Great to see you here. I take teenage girls through a session called Lady in Waiting. And one of the units that I cover is on social media etiquette. And in social media etiquette, it gets very exciting with these girls when I say we need to embrace social media as a good thing, you know. Number one, they believe that their guardians do not like social media because of the negative aspects of social media. I said, well, in life, everything has a positive and a negative. What is your choice? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be? The choice is yours. I cannot take you right up to that water for you to drink. I will take you right up the banks and you take a sip of that water. You drink of the river. So when we are talking about social media etiquette, we start to talk about the likes, the engagement. And the girls would usually say, oh, you know, on social media, people don't like my little comments. People don't like my photographs. People don't like my reels. And then we go into a very encouraging discussion, at times explosive, of why should people like you? Do you not like self? Why are you posting? So questioning them and asking them to understand the reason that they are posting, to understand what it is they're putting out there. What is your objective on social media? So it comes back to us adults. This is the room that perhaps we're talking about, this virtual space of social media. So you step into this room, you're either mirroring or you want to be liked. You are speaking the language that people understand because this is your area of expertise. This is where you're good at something. This is where you have what it takes. But what if now you get somebody who liked and then suddenly goes back and unlikes? If you get somebody who comes in and comments and they're not aligned with what it is that you have posted, stop and check how you feel, because that is feedback. That is feedback. And remember when I started off, I said that desire for validation and to be liked is human nature. It is, but it can cause anxiety. And here's the anxiety on social media immediately. So check yourselves. What did you post on social media today? How many times have you gone back to that post to see how many people are liking? So were you posting so that people could like? Or were you posting to share information and help somebody out there? Like for instance now, I can see the amount of people who are present here, but there are those who are silent and will not say anything to me. If I was driven by how many likes I get when I go online, I would never be online. I know I have a message out there. My mantra is to help build one another. And the silent, much as the ones who are speaking to us, who are audible, are all learning. We all learn differently. So I am owning this space. I am owning it. So whether people will like or not like, it doesn't stop me from getting on to my purpose. There's no distraction in my mind. And if there is, I speak to self so that I can manage that particular situation. So copy and paste and wanting to live somebody else's life will only make you a very bitter individual, because you'll be living their life. And they're not telling you about their learnings. And learnings here is interchangeable with failures, because a failure is an option. We need it to be able to transcend to success. But they're not telling you about that. You are just copy and pasting. You don't know what their journey is. Why don't you chart your own journey? Why don't you be the one who's got the learnings and the successes that you use to be able to transcend? I love to say, use your voice. Speak to people from your voice. Is it your style of dress? Is it the platform that you use? Is it the way you do your hair? As you can see, mine is salt and pepper. Perhaps that is my voice, embracing my age. What is it? Do you write? Is that your voice? Are you a blogger or a vlogger? Is that your voice? Are you an arts person? You are in theater. Do you act? Do you draw? That is your voice. And it is very personal to you. So what message do you want to get out there? My message is, I love to help building one another. That's what I love to do. And so here I'm hoping that my message today on limiting beliefs is helping to build you, to move you and shift you into personal acceptance so that you can be able to sustain your purpose. We need to own our own learnings and our successes. I love the part of core values. Who are you? Just like we had said in Be Yourself. Identify what your core values are and be in alignment with them. There's only one you who has been created. Very true, Lucy. Each voice counts. Thank you so much for sharing and interacting, Kavi. You are an individual. You are different from everybody else. Even when you are a twin, you can imagine if twins were to go for an interview, and we want to make a safe assumption here that they got the same kind of education right up to when they completed their education. These twins then go for an interview because they both qualify for this interview. What is the differentiator? That is what they have to identify if one twin is going to get that job. There is a differentiator. Now we want to say that these twins are so alike, but they're not 100% alike. So you must understand that as an individual, you've got your own DNA. Whether you are an individual, whether you're a twin, whether you're a triplet, you have your own personal identity. So you need to know which one it is that is your differentiator and own it. Great to see you here, Date. Karibu sana. So with what Kavi says that each voice counts. What is your voice? Have you identified your voice? Are you using your voice? Are you robbing the world of the opportunity to hear your voice? Because you have a message. Your story can only be told by you and not by anybody else. So we've gone through be yourself, and we've gone through owning who you are. Very important. The third one that I also find very important is giving yourself the permission to be fulfilled by you. Why do I say giving yourself the permission? Because we are filled with guilt when we are satisfied by self. We are satisfied and fulfilled by self. When we are self-sufficient, it does not mean that you are an island and you can live on your own. It just means that you are self-aware. You are part of that 10 to 15% of people who are self-aware. And this is where you want to be. You want to be able to be fulfilled by self. So what does it mean to be fulfilled by self? The one first thing you must do is forgive yourself. Because for you to be fulfilled by self, you've got your good and your bad, you've got your strengths, you've got your weaknesses, you've got the you and you've got the shadow of you. All this is a sum of you. You're just not made up of the good, or neither are you just made up of the bad. This is a sum of you. So what are you not happy about? Are you not happy about your weakness? Are you not happy about your dark side? Are you not happy about your addiction? Are you not happy about your mouth, the way you speak, the choice of words? Identify what you're not happy about. And as you're embracing self, write a forgiveness letter to yourself. Free of condemnation. I love it. I love that word. Condemnation. Free of it. Because this is you. And there are people out there who love you in this sum of you. You might think that it is a negative thing, whereas somebody else actually depends on that brutal honesty, candidness, whatever it is that you impart on them by your words. But again, that is their perception. If you feel that for you, that is really not a good thing, then write a forgiveness letter to you and let it go. Let it go. Free yourself up to embrace self. And as you embrace yourself, you begin to trust self. As you embrace yourself, you begin to exercise gratitude. I've put it down here. You begin to exercise gratitude. Gratitude is important because then you are grateful for the thoughts that you have. You are grateful for the kind of control that you have. You're grateful for the energy you have to be able to continue from one thing to the other, to stay the course, to be consistent, to be aware of self, to love self. There's a huge population out there that does not love self. And why do they not love self? Because of a conditioning from when they were young, where they were made to believe that you had to put others before you. Well, yes, it is a good thing to put others before you. But what is it that you're giving them that you have not filled yourself with? If you want to teach them the art of forgiveness, have you learned how to forgive yourself first? You can't give that you don't have. So I say give yourself the permission to be fulfilled by you, and others will be fulfilled by you. So the statement we are looking at today is that, what if people don't like me? I'm asking you, do you like you? Do you like you? It is very important for you to answer that question truthfully. Because once you are able to answer it, then you know where you are today and you're at peace with it. So if you do not like you, you know that today. And now that you know what you know, there are three things. What will you stop doing? Write it down. What will you start doing? Write it down. And what will you continue doing? Now that you know what you know, you know that we can shift into personal acceptance when we have these limiting beliefs. We know that we should be ourselves. We should own who we are. And we should give ourselves the permission to be fulfilled by self. You know, Mother Teresa said, and let me just read it out to you. Mother Teresa said, "Tomorrow has not yet come. We only have today. Let us begin." So what are you beginning with? I've given you the internal audit, the self-audit, the personal audit that you need to do for self so that you can shift into personal acceptance. What will you start, stop, and continue doing? It's actually as simple as that. So maybe today you need to own the person that you are because you are going to be a mom. You're going to be an aunt. You're going to be a CEO somewhere. You're going to be a help somewhere. You are going to be a leader. You need to own that person. Karibu sana Rachel. You need to own who that person is. And when you're owning that person, you can then give. Today we have blended families. So you're going to become a step parent. You're going to suddenly acquire grandchildren that you never had before. How are you going to manage this situation? And as we are coming to the end of our Tuesday Talks at 3, I would just want to highlight the areas that we need to look out for. And the areas we need to look out for as we're looking at sustaining our purpose and identifying the limiting beliefs that do crop up, we need to see what happens with self. Are we self-sabotaging, and what does it mean? Are we self-destructing, and what does it mean? Are we not trusting self, and what does it mean? Let's talk about self-sabotage. Self-sabotage happens in the mind. You already have an idea and the things that you need to do. But between your two ears, you are already sabotaging and stopping yourself from realizing your potential. So these 3 statements of the last 3 weeks could be something that you have been saying to yourself and more. That you don't have what it takes, you're not good enough, and people do not like you. Well, I've given you 3 tools to be able to use today and move on. And I've given you the self-audit that you need to ask yourself. Take time to process. How are you self-sabotaging? You set out to do something and you never get to do it. Are you self-sabotaging? It's in your mind. Or are you not trusting self? We tend to look at other people and think that they are better than us. And therefore, we don't trust ourselves. And a perfect example that I always give in my trainings is when somebody asks a question and you hold back your answer. And when the answer is given, you're like, but I knew that answer. Yeah, why did you not say the answer? Because you don't trust self. So what if you were wrong? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You learn. So there you go. When you're not trusting yourself, you're not doing yourself any favors, by the way, when you don't trust yourself. Go for it. This is how we learn. We are growing. Change is inevitable. Growth is an option. So when you hold back and you don't trust self, you're not allowing the natural progression of growth to happen. So what is it for you today? Is it a self-destruction? Is that what you're doing? What kind of addictions are you hanging on to? Are you always on your phone? Social media is your addiction? Is that what it is? What is your addiction? Ask yourself that question. An addiction does not necessarily mean taking anything that is narcotic nature or alcohol. An addiction is that thing that you cannot seem to get away from. And there's a deeper issue with any sort of addiction. There's a gap somewhere that you did not fill up. There's a gap somewhere. Very good to see you there, Edison. Glad to see you. Thank you for joining. So what is this gap that you have not filled? I'll give you an example. I have gone through 2 personal losses this year. Deep. And these are deep losses that I have gone through. Losing 2 very important women in my life. And there was a gap. And the gap continues to be there. And what did I do immediately? I filled that gap literally the next day with my work. That's what I did. Now, in filling it with my work, I'm already a workaholic, and so I am work in progress. And just being able to pull away from that is very hard for me. That is my addiction. What is your addiction? There are those then who will just go onto social media and are looking for that kind of validation, that kind of love. So everything that they post, they want somebody to acknowledge that they have posted. They forget the objective of posting on social media. What is your addiction? Your addiction could be the loss of somebody or the loss of a job or whatever gap is formed. And perhaps you decide my addiction is going to be shopping. You don't have the money, but you will always find yourself online shopping because you're too embarrassed to go out there in a shopping mall to be seen shopping because it is known that you have no business being out there shopping. I want you to fill out this blank for you. What is your addiction? Because it's the self-destructive behavior that comes on to stop you achieving your purpose. Because wherever you put your focus, your energy flows there. So if you're putting your focus on this addiction, that is where your energy will flow. So I had my addiction of working, and that is where my energy was going. But what was happening? Around me, things were collapsing. The 8 areas of my life that are important from the wheel of life, they were not getting the attention that they needed, and therefore I was not feeling fulfilled. Does this resonate with you? Can you see where these 3 areas of self-sabotage, self-distrust, and self-destruction can actually stop you from sustaining a purpose, pull you back? These are things that we have to look at. But thank you very much for joining me today as we have brought the month of July to the end, where we're looking at sustaining our purpose. And therefore, in the creator framework, we are cognizant of the fact of the things that can hold us back. And this is limiting beliefs that are literally only beliefs, opinions that you have of yourself, others, and of the world. There's no truth to it, guys. It's a belief and it needs to be challenged. Listen to my last week's recording and you will see the different things that you can do as tools. But I will leave you with 3 things for this month. And I do hope that they can help you move on and be able to achieve your potential through unlocking these specific limiting beliefs that we've talked about. The first one is write down your accomplishments. And my tip is take 8 areas of your life, and in each area write down 1 accomplishment and allow it to snowball, because then you'll start realizing you have other accomplishments. And the fact that you have these accomplishments means that you have what it takes and that you are good enough. In the fact that you are good enough, here's a second one. You need to tell people, you need to show people what you're good at. And as you continue to show people and tell them, you become confident. In fact, you start to see areas of improvement yourself, even before you get feedback. And you will go and learn. You will open up your ears and take in more and fill up your cup. So tell people what it is that you do. Have no shame. Talk about what you do and how you can help people and allow that to grow. And you will find that you are good enough. That will never be an issue in your mind again. Every time it is, remind yourself. Tell people what it is that you do. And then be authentic. When you are authentic, the you and your shadow, your light and your darkness, this is the total sum of you. What you do with it is up to you. Are you going to make an impact in the world? Are you going to leave a legacy? Are you going to be impactful? Thank you so much, Kavi. You say, thank you, Lucy. May God continue to bless your voice. And we say amen to them. Asante sana. Those are my 3 takeaways. So write down your accomplishments and take it from the 8 areas in your life and let it grow. Tell people what it is that you do, the same way that I'm doing right now. Show them what you do. Grow your confidence so you can love self. Be authentic. Be authentic. So now that you know what you know, I do hope you have written down that this self-validation for you is very important. So what do you need to do in the quest of self-validation before you reach out for the external validation? In this quest, what are you going to stop doing today? What are you going to start doing today? And what are you going to continue doing today? I want to thank you so much as I close off with Mother Teresa's words. Tomorrow has not yet come. We only have today. Let us begin. Until our next Tuesday talks at 3, be kind to yourselves.